I really thought that would be a cool thing to do coming off of Lord of the Rings. And the coolest thing may not be what's cool. Well, no, actually, you guys would appreciate this. The campaign to get the job is what was amazing. There had been many screenplays over years that the studio had developed, including Christopher Columbus had developed a screenplay. Chris Columbus had developed a screenplay. So I went and tracked down, and it's not as easy as it sounds, where those screenplays were so I could read them, so I could see what the evolution of the story that the studio was buying. And it's a little bit shocking. Like, I actually think most of the people in a convention could do a better job of developing most of these franchises than the studio executives themselves, because they probably think that too, which is why they're scouring. You remember The Last Starfighter?
Yes.
With Lance Guest?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So everybody in here, it's like these panels are your video game test. They are watching. They will come down out of the sky and pluck young writers up to take you into Hollywood. It doesn't hurt. So, but they'll come up with a writer will come up with a take, or the executive will have a take, and they'll find a writer who really understands the approach, and then they'll hire them, and they send them out for a period of time, and then they get the script back. And sometimes it bears no resemblance to what was agreed upon and it's better, or it bears a lot of resemblance to what was agreed upon and it's not very good. And then they start the process of, well, we're going to give you some notes, and then we'll give you these notes, and then you go back and work on it for another month, and then you give it, and it goes back and forth like that. And sometimes it's just like riding one of those like a broken toy horse outside of a shopping cart. It's like, oh, this isn't working. But on that one, I went and I found all of those screenplays, and I really tried. I remember calling Chris Columbus, who was just done the whatever Harry Potter, the 5th Harry Potter or something like that, and because he wrote The Goonies, he took my call, and I said, listen, I really want to direct this, not really knowing that he was slated to direct it for a period of time. And he shepherded that. I don't know if he actually wrote the draft that I wanted to look at. I don't think he did, but it was in his control, 1493's control. And he said, well, we had talked a lot about me doing it. And I was like, wow, are you going to do it? And he said, I don't think so, because the version I want to make would cost $200 million. And I'm like, yeah, mine's going to be about $30 million, so give me the script. But he was kind enough to look. I drove over to the studio. I got his script. I read it. When I went in to meet with the head of I called my lawyer, and the head partner in the firm was one of the most important, powerful lawyers in Hollywood, and Jake Bloom. And you can never, even if you're a client at the law firm, nobody talks to Jake. He represented Schwarzenegger when Schwarzenegger was governor, and all through the Terminators and stuff. And I'm like, Dave, I want Jake to call Tom Rothman, the head of 20th Century Fox, and tell him that Sean Astin wants to direct Fantastic Four. And he was like, you're out of your flippin' mind. He goes, if you directed a feature? I'm like, no, not yet. He was like, well, I can't. I was like, I want you to call him, and I want you to tell him. And I made it, he could tell how serious I was. And so sure enough, Jake Bloom called Tom Rothman and said, this kid, Sean Astin, wants to direct Fantastic Four. He's like, the kid's out of his flipping mind. So he took a meeting. Took a meeting. And the other thing I had done was I started flying myself all over the world to the different special effects houses. I went up to Lucasfilm. I went to Warner Brothers had a big thing in London. I went to see obviously New Zealand Lord of the Rings. I knew their shop pretty good. So, but I really wanted to make sure that I was as up to the minute as I could possibly be on what was going into making this film. So, and the other thing was, I'd gotten a call back from Kevin Feige. You know who that is? He's the head of Marvel. So he wasn't the head of it then. He was head of physical production then. And he called me because I was just starring in Lord of the Rings. So like there was a moment where you could just call people. And I said, listen, is there any way in the world I would be, that you'd consider me to direct Fantastic Four? And he was like, well, I don't know, and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, so are you saying there's zero chance? Zero, no chance. 100% not going to do it. He said, well, I'm not going to say 0%. I'm like, ooh. So I was actually at Bellman's Rare Book Dealership on Madison Avenue, and I grabbed a Metamorphosis, the book Metamorphosis by Metamorphosis. Kafka, thank you. Kafka, $5,000. So I didn't buy it, I put it on hold. Jumped in a cab, went to Midtown Comics. I called Midtown Comics, and I'm like, I didn't know anything about it. I wouldn't have known anything from Fantastic Four if if the characters would have walked in front of me, I would have had no idea who they were. But I just knew that it was America. I've been in New Zealand for 2 years, and this was America. It was an American concept, American heroes, and the relationship between them. And so I said to the guy at Midtown Comics, listen, I'm coming in. I want to buy every single thing in your comic book store that has anything to do with Fantastic Four. He was like, really? I started thinking like, there's gonna be some first edition, something that's $1 million. I'm gonna be like, oh, I don't have $1 million, but I went in there and I got all this stuff, and I'm pouring through it. And I remember I was trying to meet with Christina Aguilera. I thought she'd be great as Sue Storm. It was an amazing time. It was an insane time. But so I go in to meet Tom Rothman, and he looks at me and he's like, what are you doing here? I said, I want to direct this movie. He goes, all right, well, this meeting is premature. We've ordered another script. It's due in 3 weeks from now. And he said, and I'll let you read it. I said, if I have your commitment, do I have your commitment that I get to read that and have a meeting with you before you set the director? Please, can I have that commitment? He said, I'll give you that commitment. Because Jake Bloom had called him, and those are powerful guys. So I was like, so I get this call. You can come in tomorrow at 5 p.m., go to Rupert Murdoch's office, and you can sit at his desk and read the new draft. So I showed up at 4, waiting, and I get in there and I read it, and this is kind of instructive for anybody who wants to be a writer, or be a filmmaker, or work in studios at all, or anybody's interested in it. When I met with the younger executive, before I met with Hutch Parker, who was the president of the studio and so forth, I was telling him that my short film was nominated for an Academy Award, and I did this, and I did that, and I did the other thing, and he was like, nobody cares. He goes, all they care about is, do you know what we should do with this character? Or do you know what should happen at this point in the story? Like, why isn't the story working better here? If you can help us make the movie better on its own terms, that's what we really need. So, and that was like so liberating. So then I'm sitting at Rupert Murdoch's desk and I'm reading the script, and like I went into the script. My whole my creative mind went into the script, and I got it. I got what they were going for, and I got what was wrong with it really clearly. I don't know if I remember it now, but so the next morning I go in to have my meeting with him, and Tom Rothman says, he says, well, okay. I said, you have, the way he did the chit chat, I don't know whatever it was, but I said, well, do you have a question? We hadn't even started talking yet. He goes, yeah, how about the big one? Why you? I said, before they'll put some 24-year-old kid in a $100 million fighter plane, they put him in the best simulators ever designed. I said, from the time I was 12 years old, I've been in the best simulators you could possibly have for this kind of thing. And he goes, oh, okay, right? So then we started talking. And I said, well, this is what I think here, and this is what I think there. And then he got up and he started pacing, and he was listening to me, and he was like, what about this? And we just had like a real creative conversation about what was going on with the story and where they had written. And he was really, he was impressed. He not just impressed like, well, you're an impressive human being, but like the ideas that I was presenting him were impressed in his mind. He liked them. And then I went to a boxing match with Michael Chiklis, and we went out afterwards. Like, I don't even know how this happened. And I'm like, you gotta play Thing. He's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, you can't. I was like, that part came down from God for you. You have to play this part. There's no one else on planet Earth who can play. I was like, do you know who's waiting to see this be done? Do you know the audience that wants you to do this right now? And I think I talked him into it. I don't know if you remember this conversation at all, but I'm pretty sure I talked about it. I tried to talk Cameron Diaz into playing Sue Storm, but she was like, wait, how long do I have to be in the makeup? And I was like, well, maybe a while. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I got this call. My mom and I were in D.C. We had just been lobbying on Capitol Hill for more funding for National Endowment of the Arts or something, and my phone rings, and I just knew. And I kind of looked down, I open it, hi, this is whatever, we have Tom Rothman for you. And I go, okay. And he said, Sean, it's Tom. I say, hey, Tom. He goes, I hope you can hear the good in what I'm about to say. And I was like, he goes, when Jake Bloom called me and told me that you had never directed a feature and you wanted to direct Fantastic Four, I told him you were out of your mind. He said, I didn't know you, I hadn't heard of you, you weren't on my radar at all. He said, but I want to tell you something. You forced me to take you seriously as a filmmaker. He said, so you may not have been on my radar before, but you'll be on my radar now. And I said, well, I'll be first in line to watch the movie. So that's that story.
We're in Vegas.